Ladies, let me tell you something. There is nothing wrong with loving a man. There is nothing weak about devotion. There is no shame in being a woman who loves deeply, fully, endlessly. That is your superpower. But the danger, the trap, the silent killer of dreams is when you love someone so hard, you forget your own name in the process. You become the woman who waits by the phone, the woman who lowers her voice, the woman who forgets what she wanted for herself so she can help him build what he wants for himself, the woman who holds him down but doesn't realize she's the one falling. And I get it. You were taught that to love is to give everything. You watched your mother pour herself into a man, maybe even into your father, and somewhere along the way, that looked like loyalty to you, that looked like strength, that looked like what a real woman does. But let me ask you something. Who's holding you up? Who's pouring into you? Because love, real love, is not about erasing yourself. It's about bringing your whole self to the table and saying, this is me and I love you, but I will not disappear for you. If your love story requires your silence, it's not love. If it demands your dreams, it's a transaction, not a union. If it breaks your spirit just to make him whole, then baby, that ain't partnership. That's sacrifice. And love isn't supposed to be your crucifixion. You were not born to orbit around a man's light. You were born to shine. But here's the truth. Somewhere deep inside, you already know this. You felt that whisper in your gut, the discomfort, the way you shrink when he walks in the room, the way you pretend to be okay with things that make your soul ache, the way your voice trembles when you speak your truth, because you know he might not like it. That's not love. That's survival. And a relationship should never feel like you're surviving it. I'm not telling you to stop loving him. I'm telling you to love him without giving him the deed to your identity. I'm telling you to love with open arms but firm boundaries. I'm telling you it is okay to say I love you, but I still have dreams. I love you, but I need time for myself. I love you, but this behavior is not okay with me. Because hear me, sis, boundaries don't kill relationships. They expose the ones that were never real in the first place. The man who truly loves you will never be threatened by your strength. He will not flinch at your fire. He will not shrink you to feel tall. He will stand beside you, not in front of you, and he will never confuse your submission with silence. There is a version of you that existed before you met him, a version that danced without needing permission, that laughed loud, that dreamed wild, that said what she meant and meant what she said. Where did she go? Because that woman, she's not gone. She's just buried under all the things you were told a woman must do to keep a man. And now you're waking up. Now you're asking the right question. Now you're feeling the ache of your own becoming. Good. That means you're ready. Ready to choose yourself. Ready to pour your energy back into your own cup. Ready to love from a place of wholeness, not emptiness, hoping he'll fill it. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong man. And if you've got the right one, he will rise to meet you at your level, not pull you down to his. Let's talk about something else real quick. Some of y'all are confusing your anxiety with passion. You're calling your constant overthinking. You're walking on eggshells. Your inability to rest in his presence. Butterflies. That's not love. That's nervous system dysfunction. Love isn't loud chaos. It's peace. It's safety. It's being able to say, I had a hard day, without fearing his response. It's not checking his mood before deciding yours. It's not needing to beg for the bare minimum. But here's the plot twist. You teach people how to love you by the way you love yourself. So when you abandon yourself in the name of love, you give them the green light to do the same. The way you talk to yourself, the way you care for your body, your mind, your purpose, it becomes the manual they read from. You want him to respect you, start with you. You want to be heard, stop silencing yourself. You want to be prioritized, stop making everyone else the main event while you play background music in your own life. Baby girl, don't lose your rhythm just to dance to his beat. Let him love you. Let him lead, if that's his calling. Let him provide, let him protect, but never let him convince you that your only role in life is to be his reflection. You are a woman first. You are a force. You are a mind, a soul, a dream in motion. And when you love him from that place, from a place of fullness, not desperation, then the love you give is a gift, not a plea. Let me ask you something else. If you had to disappear to make it work, what exactly are you preserving? A relationship isn't a prize if it costs you your peace. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave. Leave the version of love that asks you to hide. Leave the relationship that demands your silence. Leave the ship that gives you just enough to stay, but never enough to grow. And if you choose to stay, then stay as your full self, not the watered down, toned down, dimmed down version. Ladies, let me tell you something you don't hear enough. You are allowed to you are allowed to want more. You are allowed to say, I've changed. Because when a woman loves herself, the world around her shifts. Her walk changes. Her words carry weight. Her time becomes sacred. Her energy becomes expensive. That kind of woman cannot be bought with bare minimum. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg. She doesn't bargain for affection. She loves deeply, wildly, but from a grounded place. So today I challenge you. Don't just love him. Love you. Love your boundaries. Love your growth. Love your peace. Because when the right man comes, and he will, he won't be intimidated by your power. He'll be drawn to it. He'll protect it. He'll make room for it. He'll say, I see you, all of you, and I want you to keep shining. And when you meet a love like that, when two whole people come together, you don't complete each other. You expand each other. So stop shrinking, queen. Stop folding your wings so he can feel taller. You were never meant to fit in his pocket. You were meant to fly beside him. Love him, but love you more. Not selfishly, but sacredly. Because the most powerful kind of love is the kind that doesn't ask you to disappear. It asks you to rise. And baby girl, it's time. And here's the real test of self-love. Can you still stand tall when your love is not returned the way you hoped? Can you hold your own hand when he forgets to reach for it? Can you speak life over yourself when he goes silent? Because not every man who says, I love you, knows how to handle the weight of a woman with vision. Not every man understands that love isn't about control. It's about capacity. The capacity to support, to grow, to nurture, to withstand storms without dimming someone else's sun. You will meet men who are drawn to your light but resent your shine, who say all the right things but feel threatened when you speak up, who hold you close but panic when you grow wings. And in those moments you must decide, is your future negotiable? Is your identity up for discussion? A woman with purpose cannot afford to negotiate with smallness. And love, true love, will never require you to forget who you are just to be chosen. You are not here to play small just because he hasn't grown big enough to meet you. You are not here to audition for a man's attention. You are not here to tone yourself down just to fit into a chapter he hasn't finished writing for himself. This life is yours. Before he came, you had dreams, you had talents, you had plans, you had prayers whispered into the night, visions of what your life would look like. That voice inside you, the one that still whispers when you're alone, when you're tired, when you're pretending to be okay, it hasn't stopped speaking. You've just been too busy quieting it. But I'll say this with my whole chest. The cost of betraying yourself is always greater than the cost of walking away from someone who doesn't see you. Loyalty to someone else should never come at the expense of disloyalty to your spirit. If you've got to abandon yourself just to stay, you're not in love, you're in captivity. Because the right relationship doesn't erase your identity, it amplifies it. It says, I see your strength and I admire it. It says your voice has value here. It says you don't have to fight to matter. And if you're not hearing those words, if your presence feels conditional, if your light feels too bright for his comfort, then it's time to realign. Not everything lost is a tragedy. Sometimes the leaving is the blessing. Sometimes the heartbreak is the rescue. Sometimes the ending is where you begin again. Not broken, but wiser. Not empty, but aware. Not bitter, but awakened. You were never made to be someone's mirror. You were made to be someone's match. But don't get it twisted. Even your match doesn't complete you. You are already whole. He just reflects the parts of you that were waiting to be seen. You see, the real you, the one with fire in her chest and thunder in her bones, she doesn't need saving. She needs space. She needs air to breathe. She needs a life outside of love so that love doesn't become her only reason to exist. And when you build that life, a full, wild, purposeful life, your love becomes a choice, not a need. You stop begging for time. You stop tolerating breadcrumbs. You stop explaining your worth to people who can't see your value because their vision is too small for your magnitude. And I need you to hear this clearly. Your softness is not weakness. Your vulnerability is not a flaw. Your desire to give, to nurture, to stand beside a man, that is not something to be ashamed of. But it has to be rooted in self-respect. It has to be grounded in clarity. It has to come from overflow, not starvation, because love from an empty woman becomes a prison for both. But love from a full woman, that is revolution. That kind of love uplifts. That kind of love builds kingdom. That kind of love walks into a room and changes the atmosphere. Not because she's trying to, but because her spirit is so rooted, so whole, so untouchable, that everything around her aligns. And that woman, she never fears being alone. She never trades her power for proximity. She never questions whether she's enough, because she already knows. That's the woman you're becoming, the one who no longer confuses chaos for connection, the one who no longer sees her worth through the lens of how much she can endure, the one who no longer sacrifices her joy on the altar of someone else's comfort. You can love him without becoming invisible. You can support him without dismantling yourself. You can pray for him without pausing your own purpose. And if he can't rise with you, if he sees your growth as a threat instead of a gift, if he requires your silence to feel powerful, then he was never your partner. He was your lesson. Let that lesson teach you how to value your energy. Let it teach you how to reclaim your voice. Let it teach you that losing someone who couldn't handle your fullness is not a loss. It's divine protection. You don't need a man who completes you. You need a man who celebrates you, who chooses your complexity over simplicity, your ambition over ease, your light over comfort. Because that man, the one who's not afraid of your wings, he will never ask you to clip them. He will stand beside you, not to lead you into silence, but to walk with you into destiny. So from this moment forward, let this be your vow. No more abandoning yourself in the name of love. No more performing femininity to be accepted. No more sacrificing your future for temporary affection. From this day on, you love him with all your heart, but never again at the cost of your soul. You show up, you speak up, you shine on, because the most magnetic, powerful, radiant woman is the one who never has to disappear to be loved. Start asking yourself better questions. Not why doesn't he love me the way I love him, but why do I accept love that asks me to suffer? Not what more can I do to keep, but what more can I do to keep myself whole? Because you can spend your whole life fixing a man who was never willing to grow, only to wake up years later and realize you were the only one fighting. You were the only one hoping. You were the only one carrying the weight of a relationship with your bare hands, while he watched you bend, break, and still ask for more. And while you're holding the pieces of someone else's puzzle, your own picture remains unfinished. You can be the woman who helps him become, or you can be the woman who becomes. But you cannot be both at the same time if he refuses to meet you halfway. Stop trying to earn what should be freely given. Stop accepting crumbs and calling it a meal. Stop mistaking attachment for connection. Love is not about proving your worth. It's about recognizing it. You were not designed to audition for someone else's affection. You were not created to convince a man of your value. The right one will already know. You don't need to twist yourself into a quieter version of who you are to be understood. You don't need to shrink your opinion, soften your voice, hide your wins to be tolerable. The right man will not be intimidated by your fullness. He'll be inspired by it. Let that sink in. You were not made to apologize for your dreams. You were not made to dim your glow to soothe fragile egos. You are not too loud, too opinionated, too driven. You're just too real for people who haven't met themselves yet. You don't owe anyone the watered-down version of your fire just because they can't handle the heat. And maybe that's what love really is. Not giving everything away, but learning how to guard your essence while still opening your heart. because love without self-awareness is a trap. Love without boundaries is a cage. And love without purpose is just a performance. You've performed enough. You've played nice long enough. You've been agreeable long enough. You've let your needs sit at the bottom of the list long enough. Now is the time to take your seat at the table you keep preparing for others. Serve yourself too, because when you pour from an overflowing soul, your love becomes stronger, not smaller. It enhances, it empowers, it electrifies everything around you, including him, but it never erases you in the process. And when you begin to show up like that, rooted, clear, radiant, you change the dynamics of every room you walk into. People feel your presence, they adjust, they either rise or they leave. And both are blessings. You are allowed to be too much for the wrong people. That doesn't make you wrong, it makes them misaligned. Stop internalizing rejection as a reflection of your inadequacy. Some men only know how to love women who don't challenge their comfort zones. That's not your fault. That's not your burden. That's not your assignment to fix. Let them go. Let them find what they think they need while you continue becoming who you were born to be. Because the woman you're becoming, she's unshakable. She's aware. She's intentional with her energy. She doesn't flinch when she's alone. She doesn't shrink when misunderstood. She doesn't settle for being half seen. And more importantly, she doesn't pretend anymore. She doesn't pretend that things are okay when they're not. She doesn't smile through disrespect just to avoid an argument. She doesn't lay next to someone who makes her feel lonelier than being alone. Because once you've tasted freedom, emotional, mental, spiritual, you can't go back to pretending you're satisfied with crumbs. You can't unsee your worth once your eyes are open. And here's something else. Your healing will offend the ones who benefited from your brokenness. Let them be offended, because the moment you stop accepting dysfunction as normal, you will lose people. You'll lose the ones who preferred the version of you that was easier to manipulate, the one who was too scared to walk away, the one who kept quiet just to keep the peace. But losing them is the beginning of gaining yourself. And what a powerful thing it is to finally belong to yourself, to speak without trembling, to rest without guilt, to want more without apologizing, to say I'm not okay with this and mean it, even if it means standing alone. That's not weakness. That's womanhood in its most powerful form. And yes, it will be hard sometimes. You'll second guess yourself. You'll miss the comfort of what used to be, even if it wasn't healthy. You'll feel the sting of walking away. You'll feel the ache of holding your standards when all you want is to feel loved. But stay the course, because the love you're building, the one that starts within, that love will attract the kind of man who doesn't need you to beg for respect, attention, or consistency. He'll show up ready. He'll show up whole. He'll show up because he's already done his own work. And that's the only man worthy of the woman you're becoming. So when you love him, love from overflow. When you support him, do it without abandoning yourself. When you give, make sure it's not costing you everything you need to function. Because when you're gone, drained, erased, no one wins. Not you, not him, not the future you're trying to build. You matter. Your needs matter. Your dreams matter. Your mental health matters. Your peace matters. Start acting like it. Speak like it. Love like it. Because when you stop choosing people who don't choose you, when you stop bending to be enough, you start attracting the life, the love, and the legacy you were always meant to create. Let's get brutally honest for a moment. Sometimes the greatest betrayal is not what someone else does to you, it's what you continue to do to yourself in their name. You ignore the lies, silence your intuition, dilute your brilliance, and convince yourself that love is supposed to hurt sometimes. Who told you? Where did you learn that struggle is a requirement for intimacy? Why do you believe that loyalty means tolerating cycles of neglect? These ideas aren't yours. They were planted by culture, by upbringing, by half-healed generations that taught women endurance over joy. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's sacred. And now you have a choice. Continue the inheritance of self-abandonment, or break the cycle and redefine what love looks like through the lens of emotional health, purpose, and reciprocity. That's not rebellion. That's responsibility, your future. to your daughters, to your younger self who prayed for the woman you're becoming. You are not here to live a half-life under the shadow of someone else's convenience. You are here to thrive, to evolve, to protect your soul like it holds divine treasure. Because it does. You're not difficult. You're not impossible. You're simply done accepting conditions that require your erasure. And here's something people won't tell you. The longer you betray yourself for someone else's comfort, the harder it becomes to recognize your own voice. You start wondering if you're asking for too much when really you've been accepting far too little. You start doubting your perception when really it's been spot on the whole time. You start rationalizing their patterns when really they've been teaching you who they are from day one. Trust what you know, not what they say, not what they promise, not what they show on their best days, but what your body feels in the quiet moments, what your energy senses when you try to convince yourself to stay. Your nervous system doesn't lie. Pay attention, because self-trust is the foundation of emotional maturity. It's the compass that leads you home when you're lost in someone else's storm. And if you've already lost yourself, don't panic. Don't collapse into shame. Just pause and pivot. Start by asking, what did I put down to make this work? Was it your joy, your friendships, your creativity, your ability to rest without anxiety? Pick it up again. Piece by piece. You don't need a dramatic exit to return to yourself. Sometimes healing is quiet. Sometimes it's choosing not to reply. Sometimes it's spending a weekend alone. Not because you're lonely, but because you're learning to enjoy your own company again. It's not about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It's about alignment. When you align with peace, the need for chaos disappears. When you align with truth, manipulation becomes unbearable. When you align with self-worth, inconsistency loses its power. And when you align with your highest self, love becomes a celebration, not a sacrifice. Let's be clear, love isn't supposed to feel like a job interview you keep failing. It's not supposed to feel like chasing, guessing, hoping, shrinking. Real love, mature love, is rooted in mutual elevation. It's not power over, it's power with. If you're constantly walking on emotional landmines, that's not love, that's exhaustion. And you can't build a future on fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of not being enough for the next man either. But hear me loud, you are not hard to love. You are hard to manipulate. You are hard to deceive. You are hard to contain. And that scares the men who rely on your insecurity to stay in control. They will call you too much when you start saying no. They will say you've changed when you stop accepting nonsense. They will call you difficult when you finally demand clarity. Let them. Let their discomfort reveal their lack of capacity. Because your healing is not about making them feel better. It's about making you whole again. You were not born for a love that costs you your smile. You were not designed to carry someone else's emotional load while yours goes ignored. You are allowed to want laughter, adventure, honesty, presence, partnership. You are allowed to walk away the first time it hurts, not the 50th. You are allowed to say this is not enough, even if it confuses the people around you. Because guess what? Confusion is often the first sign you've outgrown your cage. You no longer fit the version of yourself that tolerated bare minimums. You no longer find comfort in dysfunction disguised as passion. You no longer crave the validation of someone who couldn't even validate themselves. That's growth. It's uncomfortable, yes. It's isolating, sometimes. But it is holy. And on the other side of that growth is a woman who doesn't just survive love, she expands through it. A woman who sets the tone before anyone else walks in, who doesn't wait to be chosen because she's already chosen herself, who knows that love is not a finish line but a mirror. And if that mirror keeps reflecting pain, it's time to turn toward the light. So hold your head high, not because everything is perfect, not because the pain didn't happen, but because you made a decision to no longer be the woman who disappears for someone else's comfort. You've made a vow not to never love again, but to never love at your own expense again. There's a difference, a powerful one. So when the next man comes along, and he will, you'll no longer ask, will he stay? You'll ask, can he meet me here in the fullness of who I am? And if he can't, you won't beg. You'll bless him and keep walking. Because a woman who knows her worth doesn't chase. She aligns. She attracts what she is. And sis, what you are is gold. Unapologetic, grounded, divine. It's a beautiful thing when a woman decides she will no longer apologize for choosing herself. It's quiet at first, like a soft rebellion. You wake up one morning and realize you don't feel like fixing what's already been broken 100 times. You realize peace isn't something you need to beg for, it's something you create. You start taking your time back, not in rage, not in revenge, just in resolution. The resolution to no longer wait for someone else to give you permission to be whole. And that shift, it changes everything. Suddenly, you don't respond to what used to trigger you. You don't chase after unclear answers. You stop making excuses for behavior that you would never accept from anyone else. Because now you've become the woman who listens to her own silence more than she listens to someone else's noise. You begin seeing things for what they are, not what you hope they'll become. You notice the red flags are not warnings to work harder, but signals to walk away quicker. You understand that potential is not love, promises are not action, apologies are not accountability. You become fluent in the language of emotional maturity, not because you read it somewhere, but because you lived it. You survived the hollow kind of love that had no foundation, the kind that looked good on the outside but drained you at the core. And now you're rebuilding, not just your standards, but your soul. You're no longer interested in being the one who always understands while no one understands you. You're no longer intrigued by inconsistency dressed up as mystery. You're no longer invested in chemistry without compatibility. Because here's the hard truth that every grown woman eventually learns: chemistry without respect is chaos. Attraction without communication is confusion. Love without mutual effort is a slow death. And you're done dying inside for the sake of looking strong on the outside. You don't want performance anymore. You want presence. You don't need someone to rescue you. You need someone who knows how to walk beside you. No more hoping they'll change. No more rewriting your boundaries just to keep someone comfortable. You're done paying the emotional bill for someone else's unfinished healing, because the longer you carry them, the longer you delay your own flight. You weren't born to be a landing strip for broken promise. You're a launch pad for purpose. Let that become your new standard. You're not here to heal grown men who refuse to grow. You're not here to explain basic decency to someone who knows exactly what they're doing. You're not here to shrink so that someone else can feel big. You are not a rehab center for potential. You are a woman, and you are allowed to take up space in love, in life, in every single room you walk into. Stop tucking yourself into someone else's small definition of what a woman should be. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them be confused. Let them call you difficult, but never let them shrink you. You deserve to be with someone who sees your brilliance and says, let's build something with that, not let's tone that down. You deserve presence, not empty promises. You deserve effort, not explanation. You deserve commitment, not convenience. You deserve mornings without anxiety and nights without overthinking. And here's what's even more important: you deserve to give all that to yourself before expecting it from anyone else, because the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other connection in your life. How you speak to yourself, how you advocate for yourself, how you protect your peace when people start pulling on you with their chaos. That becomes your standard. And when your standard rises, your life rises with it. So if something costs your joy, your clarity, your sanity, it's too expensive. Stop buying love at the price of your dignity. Stop giving your body to someone who won't even hold space for your soul. Stop waiting for a text message to validate your existence. You are not a placeholder. You are not a warm body. You are not a second option. You are the prize. And when you know that, truly, deeply know that, your decisions start to reflect it. You stop entertaining people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop questioning yourself when someone else fumbles your heart. You stop needing closure from people who never gave you clarity in the first place. That's evolution, and it's not always glamorous. It's not always celebrated. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's terrifying. Sometimes it's just you sitting with your truth, letting go of someone you thought would be your forever taste. But that kind of pain is sacred because it purifies. It strips away every lie you told yourself just to feel love. It burns away every illusion. It makes space for the kind of love that doesn't require suffering, the kind that sees you and says, come as you are, and don't you dare dim that light. And until you find that, don't settle, not because you're bitter, but because you've healed. And when a healed woman says no, it shakes the ground, because she's not rejecting love, she's rejecting confusion. She's not cold, she's clear. She's not guarded, she's grounded. So be that woman, not the one who waits to be rescued, the one who rescues herself over and over until she no longer needs to be saved, only seen, because that's all any of us ever really want, isn't it? To be seen fully, deeply, without conditions. But that starts with you. See yourself, choose yourself, return to yourself over and over again until anyone who walks into your life understands this is a woman who loves deeply but never disappears.